Running. Is it working? Oh, are we up? I don't know. I guess I could pick my nose or something. How long does it take him to cut you off if you're naked? All right, never mind. Yeah, okay. Hi. Wink, wink. Um, damn. I don't know which books to use to try and explain. I could take a short one and turn it into something cool. But I don't know. Ecclesiastes. What? That book is so meaningful, meaningful. All is meaningful. You know how to read it. But I was looking at Lamentations. Ugh. Yeah, boy. The title of this book literally means funeral songs. The author was probably Jeremiah, and he was grieving about the destruction of Jerusalem. In the original language, Hebrew, the 22 verses in each chapters of 1, 2, and 4 use the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet to start the verse. The third chapter has 66 verses, and every third verse starts a new letter of the Hebrew alphabet. This is called an acrostic. Oh, learn something. Um, Jeremiah reflects here on the total destruction that has happened to Jerusalem and the temple, but he recognizes that all of this is the judgment of a righteous God. And I feel the same way. We deserve what we got going on here. You kidding me? Knowing that God is merciful, he appeals for mercy in prayer to God. So remember, when we start talking about the city and we talk about Jerusalem, I refer to the teaching of peace. In other words, the instruction of God. So, when it says, how deserted lies the city, um, to me, that's not like some place where people just aren't hanging out or something like that. No. This is actually some place where it could be highly populated, but there's nobody there. It's empty. Like, you know, nothing going on kind of thing, right? So to say this, how deserted lies the city, once so full of people? Well, the people are the city, Jerusalem, right? The teaching of peace. So he's not seeing the obedience, and therefore, um, no fruit, right? How like a widow is she? Well, there you go. No husband, no fruit. Who once was great amongst the nations. She who was queen among the provinces has now become a slave. And it's strange because you're slaves either way, or we are. We're either slaves to our own desires, which can take us in maybe bad ways, but you know, just because I say my own desires, what if my desires are the same desires as God's? I kind of get the double benefit of being able to do what I really want to do, and He's happy about it. It's kind of weird, isn't it? I like it, personally. Um, Bitterly she weeps at night. And again, the way this is written, because it's talking about at night, that's when you're not following the law. You're walking in darkness. So Bitterly she weeps at night. Tears are upon her cheeks. Among all her lovers, there is none to comfort her. And see, when I see Jerusalem as being that woman, the teaching, you know, the teaching of peace, well, who is Jerusalem's husband? It would be Father God, because that's where the law actually came from, right? Came from him. Follows the same structure as when, Adam, and then you had Eve come from him, right? We see it as a woman, but the word that's used in Hebrew is probably actually better said as a rescuer. So she would be like a rescuer. And that's literally what the Torah is, or the law of God, the Word of God. Deuteronomy means the words, by the way. Um, so it's that structure is there, where you've got the head or the Godhead, working through the woman who then creates everything. And that's how we should see the Torah. Or in our case, Jerusalem being the teaching of peace. Um, when they talk about the new Jerusalem coming down from heaven, that was Jesus. He was the teaching of peace. He was the Word. Bitterly she weeps at night, tears are upon her cheeks. Among all her lovers, there is none to comfort her. And it's really funny because this almost seems to refer to like a sexual relationship, but it's, if you can put the woman as being the part of the law that you have to listen to, I mean, which is in all irony because you listen to your wife, right? But then you can read some of these other prophecies and maybe complaints by prophets where they talk about defiling their neighbors' wives. And it's like, what in the hell is that? I mean, the the if you can't kind of see it as it being a guide, a tutor, literally, like Paul describes it, to help us, then what winds up happening is you create these visions of like, I mean, people were, I don't know, pretty messed up back then, right? I mean, and I think we want to think of ourselves as being more civilized, uh, you know, in the way that we do things, right? We're more humane, cultured. I don't know if that's always necessarily the case from some of the things I've read over the past 5 years. All her friends have betrayed her. And again, this is, if you think of it as the law being the truth, if you go against it, you're betrayed by it. The law will either reap you blessings or curses, one or the other. They have become her enemies. So again, it's just more of the same. Uh, what should be, you know, and this is even how when the Lord or when Scripture talks about being devoured by the sword. It's literally, it can either defend you, but you can also fall upon it. So, after affliction and harsh labor, Judah has gone into exile. And Judah, as being from the south, refers to, well, it would kind of be like the lion, of course. I mean, they say Lion of Judah, but because it's south, it refers to um, uh, even in geography, okay, the north would be considered like a place of where God is, right? oneness, and so on. Where then Judah would always be divided, um, ruling from a left and a right kind of standpoint, but always staying on the path, I guess you could say, right? Um, because of that division, there's two sides. There's always going to be sheeps and goats working, uh, and that's the thing with Judah. When it's said that the staff will never depart from between the feet, it's said that way for a reason. In other words, you keep on that path, but it's a highway, right? People are going both ways on this road. Some people are facing God, standing before God. Other people are headed in the other direction. And either way has to be respected. Um, but again, because the Lord is actually still in charge, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're either serving or unserving yourself, I guess, because you're going to reap whatever it is that you do. So, you can. I don't know. Sounds almost like karma, right? But that's just how it works. So, wow, Egypt, that's where my hydrate. Good idea. Can's getting kind of sweaty in here. I think the humidity must have kicked up a bit. Yeah. Add a little bit of juice to it. If I wouldn't have been lazy, you know what you can do? You can take a can of meatless spaghetti sauce, because they spice it up really good. And you add 1 can of that and 2 cans of water. And then that'll make you some tomato juice. And then you sprinkle some garlic powder, some sesame seeds, and you could even throw a little onion powder and maybe a little bit of like cayenne pepper, and then drizzle a little bit of Tabasco, and then you dump this inside of that, and you make a nice little chilada. I could still do that right now if I wanted to. Woo! Yeah, but you know what happens when I'm trying to drink out of a glass with this thing on my face? Doesn't work. Did I pour this in there already? I don't think I did. Give it a little shot. That'll hopefully help it out. Let's see. Yeah. Now it's summertime. All right. After affliction and harsh labor, Judah has gone into exile. And you can see that she's called a she here, right? She dwells among the nations. She finds no resting place. And that is just aimless wanderer. That would be literally the life of the harlot. When it refers to Lady Wisdom and the law, that woman that you see in Revelation and so on, or where they're referring to certain cities as a she, right? It's referring to a place or a person or tribe or nation that has decided, well, they're not producing fruit. So um, they're kind of devoid, right? Like, let's put it this way: if remember how Jesus said, "I wish you were hot or cold." Let's just give cold, since it's to the north, to God, and hot being to the devil, right? We know that what he was talking about was being lukewarm. And unless this nation of Judah beds down with somebody, and it even said that up here, among all her lovers, right? No fruit's going to happen. So, and this type of situation does not have to necessarily refer to, I mean, yeah, these are prophecies and it's stuff that's written, but this is all just applicable through all of time. So when I bring that up, the reason why is, don't make it an idea of, as soon as you start to judge, okay, well, that means Judah's doing evil, blah, blah, and now you got these glasses on that somehow you're better than they are, as to be able to even point at them and say they're being judged. The better way to look at it is as such. So slow down, cowboy. The better way to look at it, so that this can be applicable even to times of today. All right? No fruit means not, it means idolatry, because that's idleness. You're not working with one father or the other. And it's like, well, wait a minute. So you're saying Jesus would rather that you'd be good or evil? And it's like, yes, because then he would know what to do with you. The harlot is the person that is kind of riding both sides of the fence. You know, um, I'm pro-life, but not if it's my kid, kind of thing, or whatever, right? So then they start bending the rules that are already laid out and are very cut and defined, so as to then start, uh, that's what harlotry is, um, in Scripture. That's what the prophets are referring to when they speak about that. Is somebody that is literally unrighteousness. Now, if you were in bed with the devil and he was your father and you were doing what you always see your father doing, which is lying, but whatever, then guess what? At least you would be righteous with that person, that you would be serving as you should. That's why you're not supposed to judge another master's servant. That person serving in that way they've got their own problems. You don't have to worry about it. When Jesus said, let the dead bury the dead, there was a reason for that. That person, that type of person is going to self-destruct. You don't have to do anything. The law does not have to be defended. It will defend itself. But when it says that she finds no resting place, you know, uh, that's like the worst of the worst. It's kind of like, if you think about it, what do they say? There's no rest for the wicked, right? And what happens when you tell one lie? Well, you got to tell another lie to keep that lie balanced somehow, so nobody can figure it out. Because the bottom line, you know, if there's a lie, well, guess what? The truth is sitting there just waiting to pop up. Woohoo! That's what I'm for. But the person that wants to lie, whoa, their shit is busier than all get out, man. One-legged man in a butt kicking contest. Just can't keep up. And then what happens? Eventually it falls apart and they get caught. So, don't do that. Wow. Really? Is that how easy it is? Well, otherwise, what's the. You can't bend reality, man. It's like. What do you, next you think you'll be able to walk through walls? Fly in the clouds, even. Whew. All right. She finds no resting place. All who pursue her have overtaken her in the midst of her distress. And we see someone would read this and they'd be like, Wait a minute. It said she had no lovers. Well, if somebody pursues her and overtaken her in the midst of her distress, why is it read that way? Why can't it mean everybody who is behind her, like in line, is while she's getting all jacked up? What do you think happens if you're going to the left and to the right? You just clear the path for the person behind you. He who was behind me is now before me, and vice versa. Yeah. Yeah, when Jesus became sin, did absolutely nothing wrong, but in order to teach it, show people what was going on, they killed him because they couldn't understand his teachings. All who pursue her have overtaken her in the midst of her distress. It's like, and don't even care. The roads to Zion mourn. And Zion means like parched place, desolate place, by the way. This is the dry ground. And yeah, the roads to Zion mourn. For no one comes to her appointed feasts. And the appointed feasts are, you know how you have the root out of dry ground? That's struggle, that's strife, that's where you're supposed to come from. Each and one and every one of us, all of us, through that struggle. And that's what the tribulation is all about. Kind of pumps up the fire, right? Makes it harder on us. So we got to struggle harder. That's the birth, right? The birth pangs. I'm telling you, the only way to make it easy is by following. You got to follow the rules. And they're not. It's not like, Jesus reduced it to what? Love each other. Wow. I don't know. Can you do that? All her gateways are desolate. So in other words, nothing comes from her. Her priests groan. Her maidens grieve, and she is in bitter anguish. It's just like, I'm smiling while I read this because it's like, this is just somebody that refuses to work the law as they should. If God says if, and you do that, he cannot hold back on that. If you'll turn to me, I'll heal your lands and so on. Yeah. I mean, is it so impossible to see what would happen if people actually turned and did that? Wouldn't they start to see blessings? Where would it come from? From within, where it's supposed to come from. Does that mean that our God didn't do it? I don't know about you, but I am a bag of dirt, and I cannot move or do anything without the Spirit, the breath of life inside of me. Same thing that's inside of you. So, yeah, God's kind of dependent on me, I guess I feel. And I'm not going to let him down. I don't think this is going to bother him very much. I hope not, anyway. I'm not feeling it. He would rather have me love you than be all pious and using ear-tickling words. It's a bunch of baloney. Her foes have become her masters. Why? It's a slavery thing. You sell yourself into it, right, when you're doing wrong. Her enemies are at ease. Same side. The Lord has brought her grief because of her many sins. And it's like, we think that it's like we get away with it. This is delusion here, big time. We think we're getting away with something, like there's some judgment down the road. All we're doing is whatever deeds we do, we are planting seeds of stuff that's going to pop up. Everything you do, and it could, I don't know, some people, everything you do plants a seed. It is an extension of our Lord. You've done a work. You've done something. That's got to be judged. And it is. You know, it, we, uh, it's not as if it's some kind of a big process, right? Was it good or was it evil? Over. No jury, no crew, no judges. Simple. And every time that somebody makes more evil, well, a little bit more to process on that one, right? You make good, it's done. You've completed a good work. Well done. Well, what do you think happens when you make evil? You just made more work. Because evil is good that's not good yet. Everything starts out as evil. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now they are formless and void and darkness. That was the first thing that was created, darkness. If darkness was a created thing, and, well, it says it was in Isaiah 45:7. Everything comes from the darkness. Thus, even the light is in the darkness, but it doesn't understand it because of the darkness. That light is your life, the life of mankind. Go shine. Her foes have become her masters, her enemies are at ease. The Lord has brought her grief because of her many sins. And again, see, he gives you the desires of your heart. It's not tempting you to do evil if you have asked for it. So when you sin, you're asking for evil to be brought to you. And he'll deliver. Her children have gone into exile, which is what? Then the fruits they don't count anymore, right? Captive before the foe. All the splendor has departed from the daughter of Zion. Her princes are like deer that find no pasture. In weakness, they have fled before the pursuer. Yeah. You have no strength, you have no. It's like being defenseless when you're standing against the laws of God. It's if you've left your sword in the sheath and it's doing nothing for you. Nothing at all. But if you know how to wield it, then you also know how to avoid it, which is what I would go for. In the days of her affliction and wandering, Jerusalem remembers all the treasures that were hers in the days of old. Of course, because that's where they all come from, is from the teaching of peace. When her people fell into many hands, enemy hands, there was no one to help her. Her enemies looked at her and laughed at her destruction. And that's when it says in the book of Revelation that all the enemies are supposed to surround Jerusalem. We think that that's like a physical battle. No. Uh, if you are in that city, Jerusalem, that means that you are existing, alive, proceeding, considering everything according to the teaching of peace. And so, if you are operating in that mode as per the word, your enemies should be defenseless before you. So long as I guess you're going to defend yourself with your mouth. And that's how you know that your redemption draws nigh. You'll be able to prove yourself with this book. That's what the battle is about. We've turned it into a physical battle. It's a spiritual battle that we're supposed to be fighting. And that way, if you can then see it, this battle then applies to you and me individually and every single person individually. The many, all of us, instead of looking for one person and one Antichrist and even one Messiah. It should be your aspiration to be the Messiah. And why are you saying you're not capable? That God doesn't need you? You're not important enough? Why did he make you then? What's your purpose? How do you know? Because it's not how you know, it's about if you know. And when you know, you know. And that makes our God happy. Because if he's knowing me, I'm producing fruit. Right? This is just so bad. Hair falling out everywhere. In the days of her affliction and wandering, Jerusalem remembers all the treasures that were hers in the days of old. When her people fell into enemy hands, there was no one to help her. Her enemies looked at her and laughed at her destruction. Jerusalem has sinned greatly, and so has become unclean. All who honored her despised her. This right here is referring to the sun being darkened, because then the moon doesn't give its light. The moon is referring to the reflective force of the law. That's like the moon doesn't glow. It shine. It reflects the light of the sun, which is to say that the greater light is supposed to be above the lesser light to guide it in the same way that God would be the greater light. The lesser light would be, through Adam would be then the woman. Very interesting that the moon, the woman's menstrual cycle actually follows the same timing as the moon. That's why women will call it moon time. There's a lot of stuff that just goes on naturally around us, stuff. This is why Enoch would talk about things the way he did, because there's a pattern to the way this stuff works, right? Him saying that the planets don't change their orbits or things like that, his reference to that is more so to say that, well, man sucks. Even a ball of dirt can fly around and do what it's supposed to do. But look at us. We're like out of control. Yeah. Jerusalem has sinned greatly, and so has become unclean. All who honored her despise her, for they have seen her nakedness. And it's like, what is nakedness? That's when you've sinned, right? But the funny thing is when it speaks of nakedness and them seeing it, it isn't that she's naked that's the problem. It's that they see it as nakedness. In other words, remember when they were naked but they weren't ashamed, right? That was because nakedness didn't mean anything. Once they sinned, well, then nakedness had to be covered. So it's interesting that Jesus says this to Nicodemus, right? Because Nicodemus says, can a man enter his mother's womb, to be born a second time? And if I was a smart ass, if I was Jesus and a smart ass, I would have said, oh, hell yeah, Job did it. Right? Naked I came from my mother's womb, naked shall I return. And it's like, what is misunderstood there is what Job's mother wasn't. He wasn't referring to his mother. He was referring to the Queen of Heaven, or the Torah, or Lady Wisdom. Yeah. Ugh. Oh, my back. Twisting here. Twisting. She herself groans and turns away. I mean, for all this not getting any love, man. She's sitting there waiting and she just, nah. Her filthiness clung to her skirts. She did not consider her future. What'd I say? Plan ahead. Her fall was astounding. There was none to comfort her. Look, O Lord, on my affliction, for the enemy has triumphed. The enemy laid hands on all her treasures. And this happened to the church. She saw pagan nations enter her sanctuary, those you had forbidden to enter your assembly. All her people groan as they search for bread. Empty churches. They barter their treasures for food to keep themselves alive. And this is like, selling, that gets me, I fell victim to it. Wow, man. I've got a whole library of, like David Jeremiah, he was my man. And I have all of his teachings, and now I know they're junk, many of them, because of some of the things he says. Like he talks about the book of Job, when Satan made a deal with the devil, or when God, I'm sorry, when God made a deal with the devil is what he says. And it's like he tells the story from that way of Job being tortured and whatever, and it's like, no, man, it's not what went on there at all. Job is like a job. Satan has a job of considering. And when you know how to, let's get through Lamentations, or a little bit of it anyway. All her people groan as they search for bread. They barter their treasures for food to keep themselves alive. Look, O Lord, and consider. Oh, and consider, for I am despised. And this is the split where Jesus is talking about the two masters. Love one and hate the other, or honor one and despise the other. Is it nothing to you, all you who pass by? Look around and see, is any suffering like my suffering that was afflicted on me, that the Lord brought on me in the day of his fierce anger? Who brought that day? From on high he sent fire, sent it down into my bones. He spread a net for my feet and turned me back. He made me desolate, faint all the day long. My sins have been bound into a yoke. By his hands they were woven together. They have come upon my neck, and the Lord has sapped my strength. He has handed me over to those I cannot withstand. The Lord has rejected all the warriors in my midst. He has summoned an army against me to crush my young men. In his winepress, the Lord has trampled the virgin daughter of Judah. And who caused it? This is why I weep and my eyes overflow with tears. No one is near to comfort me, no one to restore my spirit. My children are destitute because the enemy has prevailed. Ah, it's terrible. Yeah, acrostics, structure, 22 letters. In some cases, they repeat them 3 times in a row. And the Lord is righteous, yet I rebelled against his command. Listen, all you peoples, look upon my suffering. My young men and maidens have gone into exile. I called to my allies, but they betrayed me. My priests and my elders perished in the city. While they searched for food to keep themselves alive. See, O Lord, how distressed I am. I am in torment within, and in my heart I am disturbed, for I have been most rebellious. Now, me, I'd be singing in the other direction. I'm like, when? Outside the sword bereaves, inside there is only death. People have heard my groaning, but there is no one to comfort me. All my enemies have heard of my distress. They rejoice at what you have done. May you may you bring the day you have announced, so that they may become like me. Let all their wickedness come before you. Deal with them as you have dealt with me because of my sins. My groans are many and my heart is faint. And that's where I'm at. Take it out. I'm good. Yeah, if you want to, if you're gonna even look into the acrostics, then you're gonna have to. You're gonna have to know some Hebrew, right? If you don't know the Hebrew alphabet, there's no point in it. Um, but what I would say about the Hebrew alphabet itself is that, this is what God created everything through the Word, right? And it begins with an ox and then a tav, which is like a seal or a mark of truth. And you can understand you can understand how unbreakable this is when you can catch verses saying things like, do not muzzle an ox while it treads out the grain. That is referring to letting the law do what it's going to do, that God's in control. That is like Gamaliel saying, do nothing to these men. If it's of man, it will fail. If it's, but you might find yourself like fighting with God if you try to stop it. And I think that that's what we're dealing with Jesus right now. There's something that we're fighting that's of man, and it's causing us to not, you know. Hey, Jesus said anytime will do, and I know why. And nobody cares. Yeah. No, there are definitely amazing things about the wording and all of that. If you're into studying that, um, yeah, we got to get beyond this, and the laws have to be written on our hearts. It's we should be trying to fulfill prophecy while the getting is good. If we're not willing to work at that level, then we don't understand anything about God and what it is that we're doing. Um, Prophecy is fulfilled in either two ways. Either you wait on it and the Lord does it, and typically that won't turn out well for you. You can use Nineveh as a example. Or you can do it yourself and then reap the blessing. And again, I would use Nineveh as an example, because either Jonah was a false prophet or that city was overturned. And they were overturned. The difference was they overturned themselves through repentance instead of the Lord doing it for them. Yeah, keep the Lord out from doing anything if you can manage from that. Try to get you do the work for Him. He can break and wreck some stuff. Yeah. You know what I feel like wrecking? Some tortilla chips. So I'm going to get out of here. Well, that was interesting in Lamentations. This book is all just one thing to me. It's like a machine. It's like looking at the code that the universe runs on. And we can't break it. But if you think of that, how can your enemies open your mouths against you unless you've done something to allow them to say something wrong, right? See, everybody wants to put it in one direction, that we're being attacked. But when you read that scripture, how could your enemies open their mouths against you unless it was true? And if it wasn't true, well, then you could just say, oh, they're lying. And it should be that easy. Well, the problem is when they're not lying and your enemies have opened their mouths against you. So that's the importance of, you know, we have to serve at a very different level than what's expected. You know, we don't we don't get away with just flippantly. You know, I don't know. We write too much stuff off. God is not as real as people want to believe, right? I mean, I believe in omnipresence. I don't call God into my presence and whatever. Our God is everywhere at all times. So I don't know. Maybe they'll come up with some kind of a phobia about it someday. They'll call it the Elohim Elohim phobia clause or something, where you look at God as like being Santa Claus. He sees you when you're sleeping and knows when you're awake, which he does. But it's like, does it make me a bad person because I acknowledge that fact with every breath and move that I make, or consider that, at least? I don't know. I don't think so. What do you do? Well, the acrostics is it kind of almost does the same thing in what, Psalm 119, right? Psalm 119 starts every uh, chapter within that, or whatever. I don't even know what they are. The sections or whatever start each with one of the letters of the alphabet, right? So I mean, the purpose of that, I feel, is to help people to, you could kind of remember it by heart. It would help you because you would know, okay, A, B, C, D, on down the line, right? Um, Beyond that, I don't know if, you know, what was the purpose of the structure like that, or I don't know, you know. It is interesting that they have 66 books in the one and the center one, because it does triples of the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. But you could say 66 books would be something to be reckoned, but really 66 books kind of doesn't count, because if you look at the Catholic Bible and the Ethiopian Bible and this Bible over here and over there and whatever, not all of the Bibles actually have 66 books. The original King James was like a, you know, my understanding is the thing looked like a shoebox more than a book, because it had so much stuff in it, right? It had commentaries from Calvin and Luther and all kinds of goodies. So, yeah, that's it. Oh. I'm gonna mute the mic so you guys don't have to listen to me crunching on tortilla chips here. I made myself a little salsa yesterday. Nothing special. Thank you for my food, Lord. Well, it's very hot. It's pretty hot, spicy. Hard to stop. Once you get that fire cooking. I know serving size like 15 chips. I'd probably eat 40. Yeah, you'll drive yourself crazy with all that. Already been through them waters. Oh man, no way I go back there. It's not to say that I would be a liar and a hypocrite if I was to say that that kind of wasn't part of the journey, kind of thing. Yeah, when I started looking at patterns and so on, that's when the whole thing unraveled for me. Everything fell apart, but only so it could come together. And then it became easy. Like, are you kidding me? It's this simple. And we've been digging here, destroying there, ruining people's lives and who knows what else, trying to, I don't know, please God. Wow. I guess that's when you put the brakes on and say, yeah, no, not anymore. So I hear all kinds of motorcycles running around. Can I come live with you? Depends. I'll do everything except dishes. Be careful with that do everything, you know. That can get you in a lot of trouble. That's how marriages are supposed to start. And it's like shit. If that's all the big deal was, I'll do the damn dishes. Well, shit. If you're in Iowa, then you know what cold is. Mm, man, blowing ass winds in the winter, and yeah, Iowa's pretty damn brutal. Iowa's like boot camp for Minnesota, before they really send your ass into bad stuff. So Iowa isn't treating you good. I hate my life out here. I just want to start a band and move out to the desert. Well, what do you do? Do you sing? Are you female? You got 5 kids? All crazy ass teenagers and shit? I sing and play guitar. Guitar. Yeah, man. I got a buddy, well, brother of a friend of mine. He, this guy could wail on the guitar, man. So, wow, 23? Shit, you got a lot of time left, man. Just, you know what? If I had to give you any advice at all and you're playing, just don't ever stop playing. Don't ever let I mean, that's what happened to me, you know? We had 3 record companies looking at our band at one time. And Chrysalis, Arista, and Monogram. And well, things fell apart just like we were warned. And when they did, when it broke all apart, I said, the hell with these guys. I'll do my own thing. I've written, wrote plenty songs, and I know that mine were obviously good because they tried to steal them and stuff. So, you know, not that they could play them right. um, yeah, I mean, I have some weird, quirky beats and things. I change up a lot of stuff, and you know, because I'm not schooled in music, I don't have any rules like other people do. Right? I've had nothing but throw your fingers on there, make it sound good, kind of thing. And after a while, well, I guess you just get the hang of it, right? So, but yeah, if you don't ever let anything stop you from playing, because I it's kind of odd, I'm not saying I'm as clean as I was back when, but I definitely have more fluidity. I know how to get around on the neck a little bit better. So it's like, the whole, uh, I don't know, keep your fingers moving, keep at it, and you'll never go backwards. You'll always just get better and better and better. The better that you get, the more opportunity that you'll have to you might run into some people and just find out that they're looking for somebody, or um, the band that I made my way into, I kind of had to almost force my way in. I had people telling these guys, yeah, Chris is good. He can play, and you know, so they had like a meeting, and they ran me through their entire song set, all of their originals and whatever, and they're playing them, for a couple seconds and then it would start to repeat, and I'd be like, "Is that all there is?" And they're like, "Yeah, okay, we'll hit the next one," and we just went boom, boom, boom through all of them like that, and then and they said, "Well, which one do you want to play?" And I said, "Well, I don't. why don't you guys just start playing, and I know how they go now, and I'll join in, right? So then they started going through their songs, and they they were it wasn't just like us jamming out having fun. They listened me play one song, and then and then they look, and then they all stop, and then they start something else, and I'd grab onto that one, and then by the end of it they were just kind of looking at each other, and they said, well, you kind of blew us away, man. We didn't, we were like, who in the hell does this guy think he is coming in here, kind of thing. But you're in. And that's how it started. And I think the first gig, I told him I was too afraid to play. It was a damn Christmas party for a bunch of old ladies, and these old ladies were getting all drunk and hammered and whatever, just having a good time, and like they told me that they were playing uh, "Run Run Rudolph" like over and over for these chicks because they were just having such a good old time, right? Ah, shit. But it's like I could look at those times and stuff and think, I could look back at it, and it could maybe make me sad, right? Like, wow, I could have been a rock star, and the only thing that I reason why I wish that would have all connected and I could have gotten a lot of money or had a lot of money right now, because if I had a lot of money right now, I'd be buying a bunch of billboards and pissing off people in churches and who knows who else, because I found a big time problem with our scriptures, and I can't shake any of these theologians loose to come take a look at what pitiful old me has found. And it's going to upset our world. I mean, people are either going to look at me as like the Messiah or the Antichrist. And it's like, I'm neither. It's like anybody could be the damn Messiah, right? If you can't understand that, then people don't understand anything about what it was that Jesus was teaching. Where in the hell would he have the rights to say you'll do better things than me? Then, if for some reason he didn't imply that somehow that was actually a thing, right? Uh, yeah, man. I've had a lot of wild ass rides in my life. Music was one of them, and like 23. Wow, man. Where in the hell was I at when I was 23? Uh, I was wondering why I had married the woman I had married, and was wishing that I had married this other chick that lived up north in Canada. Uh-oh, 5% battery. We're going to lose power here, so I'm just going to say adios so we get a nice clean break. But I love you guys. I don't know, take care of each other. You know, it's as simple as it is. We're told to love each other, and that's what we need to do. I love you guys. Shalom. Shalom.